Sir, hands where I can see him. Step away from the vehicle.
This is my vehicle, my house. I'm Dr. Terrence O'Neill, pediatric surgeon. Just got off a shift.
ID out here doesn't mean you live here.
It's clipped to my scrubs. Hospital badge. Mail still in the box if you want to look.
Neighbor said someone was forcing.
They slammed a black man onto the porch of his own home. They twisted his arms. They pressed a knee in his back. And while his daughter screamed for help, the officer yelled, "Stop resisting or I will end this." But what that officer didn't know is that the quiet man he was hurting, the man he thought was breaking in, was one of the most respected pediatric surgeons in the country. A man whose face was known in hospitals from Virginia to D.C. A man whose phone at that very moment was filled with messages from senators, generals, and White House medical advisors. And when the truth came out, a whole neighborhood froze in shame. Before we go deeper into this story, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. This one is going to make you feel something. Hey, step away from that door. Now. The voice hit like a whip cracking in the cold afternoon air. Dr. Terrence O'Neill froze halfway through unlocking the front door of the house he'd lived in for 8 years. He held 2 hospital bags. His scrubs were still stained from an emergency surgery he'd done just an hour ago. He turned slowly. A white police officer stood at the foot of his porch, hand already on his holster. Eyes sharp, angry, suspicious. "Sir, back away from that doorknob. Hands where I can see them. Now." Terrence blinked, confused, tired, worn down after 20 hours of work. "Officer, this is my home. Don't play smart with me," the cop snapped. "We got a call about a suspicious black male trying to force entry. So don't try anything funny." The street was silent. Birds stopped singing. A door across the road cracked open, neighbors watching. Terrence lifted his hands slowly, bags dangling off his wrists. "Officer, my ID is right here. I said don't move." The officer charged up the porch. And that's how the story begins, with a man just trying to open his own front door. Terrence O'Neill wasn't the kind of man people noticed right away. He didn't brag. He didn't shout. He didn't walk like a man who'd saved hundreds of children's lives. He walked like a tired dad. A man who kept his head down. A man who believed the world still had good in it, even when it didn't act like it. He was tall, 6'3", slim, dark skin, short, neat beard, glasses that always slid down his nose. He wore teal scrubs under a soft gray jacket, the kind doctors used in cold hospital rooms. Around his neck hung a badge from St. Lennox Children's Hospital. A badge dozens of parents had kissed after he saved their babies. A badge nurses treated like gold. A badge lawmakers and military families recognized instantly. But Officer Randall McKesson didn't see any of that. Officer McKesson only saw a black man on a porch in a rich neighborhood. Terrence had lived a quiet, peaceful life in that suburb. He played piano on Sundays. He taught his daughter how to ride a bike on that very sidewalk. He fixed neighbors' sprinklers when they clogged. Yet here he was, hands in the air in front of the house he paid for with the life he'd given to medicine. "Turn around," Officer McKesson barked. "Hands behind your head." Terrence swallowed hard. He didn't want trouble. He didn't want shouting. He didn't want to scare his daughter, who was probably upstairs doing homework. "Officer," he said softly, "please let me X." "Turn around." So Terrence turned. The officer grabbed his arms roughly, much harder than needed, shoving them upward until pain shot through Terrence's shoulders. Terrence winced. He didn't fight. He didn't move. "Where'd you get these bags?" McKesson demanded. "I'm a surgeon," Terrence said between breaths. "Hospital bags." "Oh really?" the officer scoffed. "You expect me to believe that? Wearing scrubs as a disguise? Cute trick." Terrence closed his eyes. Another officer's SUV rolled up the street, lights flashing. More neighbors peeked outside. McKesson pushed Terrence forward so hard he stumbled into the railing. Bags fell. Surgical tools spilled across the porch. McKesson smirked. "Oh look, tools. Breaking tools, maybe?" Terrence tried again. "Please look at my badge. It's right here." "Enough," McKesson snapped. "You people always have excuses. You people." Terrence felt something sharp in his chest. Not anger, not even fear, but a deep, old sadness. A sadness he'd felt 100 times growing up in Mississippi. A sadness he'd felt the first time a patient's father refused to let him operate because he was black. A sadness he felt every time someone looked at him and saw a threat instead of human. "Officer," Terrence whispered. "My daughter is inside. Please don't frighten her." "Then you should have thought about that before breaking into someone's house." Terrence finally looked him in the eyes. This is my house. McKesson snorted. Sure it is, buddy. And then, it happened. As Terrence tried to speak, McKesson twisted his arms and slammed him chest first into the porch floor. The air left Terrence's lungs. Glass from his dropped equipment cracked under his body. Stop resisting. McKesson yelled. Terrence wasn't resisting. He was barely breathing. A door behind them suddenly swung open. Daddy? It was his daughter. 14-year-old Alana O'Neill. Hands shaking. Eyes wide. Her voice broke when she screamed. Daddy? Daddy, what's happening? Get off him. Get off him. McKesson didn't even look at her. Back inside, young lady? Now. Alana didn't move. That's my dad. This is our house. But the officer kept pressing down. Harder. Meaner. His knee dug deeper into Terrence's back. People across the street were filming now. But nobody came closer. Nobody said a word. The second squad car door opened. Another officer stepped out, Officer Marlon Gates, younger, calmer, more aware. He jogged across the yard, eyes narrowing as he got closer. Randy, what the hell are you doing? He snapped. Got ourselves a break-in, McKesson said proudly. Gates crouched beside the scene. He looked at Terrence. And then, his face changed. His mouth opened a little. His eyes widened. Wait, is that Dr. O'Neill? McKesson frowned. Who? Gates stood fast. Terrence O'Neill. The surgeon. He operated on my cousin's daughter last year. Saved her life. McKesson blinked, but didn't move his knee. Gates' voice grew sharp. Randy. Get off him. McKesson hesitated. Wait, this guy. No. No way. Now Randy. Only then did the knee lift. Only then did Terrence slowly breathe again. Only then did Alana rush to her father's side. McKesson stepped back, face draining of color. Sir. I didn't know, I thought. But his excuses sounded thin and empty as the truth spilled across the porch. Gates helped Terrence sit up. I'm so sorry, sir, Gates said quietly. This wasn't supposed to happen. I'm so sorry. McKesson stammered. Why didn't you say who you were? Terrence looked at him, tired eyes steady. I did. A neighbor stepped out. Then another. Then another. Phones recording. Whispers growing. Faces full of shame. One woman gasped, That's Dr. O'Neill. He saved my nephew. A man said, He's lived here for years. Everyone knows him. McKesson stood frozen. Looked around. Looked small. Gates radioed for a supervisor. McKesson's jaw tightened. He knew what that meant. Suspension. Investigation. News coverage. His name spreading for all the wrong reasons. And nobody could defend what he'd just done. Terrence sat on the porch steps holding his daughter. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He didn't threaten to sue. He didn't even stand yet. He just breathed. Slow. Careful. McKesson swallowed hard. Sir. I'm asking if we can talk about this. Terrence looked at him. And said nothing. Silence was his power. Silence was his justice. Silence was his truth. Alana wiped her father's face with her sleeve. Daddy, are you hurt? He brushed her cheek gently. No, baby. I'm okay now. Neighbors approached timidly. Dr. O'Neill, we're so sorry. We should have said something sooner. We should have helped. Terrence didn't lecture them. Didn't shame them. He just nodded. Quiet. Still. Inside he felt something crack, but not something that would break him. Something that would change him. Forever. As the supervisor arrived and placed Officer McKesson in a cruiser, Alana whispered, Daddy, why do people think you don't belong in your own home? Terrence squeezed her hand and answered with a soft, heavy truth. Because some people still can't see who we are, only who they fear. And with that, Chapter 1 closes. The neighbors slowly backed away as Officer McKesson was placed inside the cruiser. No one whispered anymore. No one judged. No one stared at Terrence like he was suspicious or out of place. Now they stared at the officer, the one who was supposed to protect them, the one who had attacked a man for unlocking his own front door. Officer Gates stood beside Terrence with stiff shoulders, holding his radio tight, ashamed even though he wasn't the one at fault. The street felt heavy, thick, quiet. Like the whole world had stopped just to watch this moment. Alana clung to her father's side. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Her voice kept cracking when she breathed. Daddy, are they taking him away? She asked softly. Terrence looked at the patrol car where McKesson sat, head down, eyes darting nervously like a trapped animal. Yes, Terrence said gently. They are. Is he going to jail? Not today, Terrence answered honestly. But there will be consequences. Alana swallowed hard. Because of what he did to you? Terrence nodded. And because of what we didn't let him hide. A third vehicle pulled up, bigger, black and white, with a gold badge on the door. The supervisor stepped out. Lieutenant Vera Hollinger, a tall woman with short silver hair and a face shaped by 25 years of seeing the best and the worst of America. She approached them quickly, removing her sunglasses. "Dr. O'Neill," she said, breathless and embarrassed. "Sir, we are so sorry. This never should have happened." She didn't shake his hand. She didn't pat his back. She didn't try to hug him. She just stood there, solid and respectful, speaking to him the way someone speaks to a man who deserves honor. "I will be personally reviewing all body cam footage tonight. Officer McKesson will be removed from street duty immediately." Gates added quietly, "And the department will issue an official apology." Terrence didn't look angry. He didn't look broken. He just looked tired. "Thank you, Lieutenant," he said softly. "I appreciate that." Then she said something no one else dared to ask. "Sir, would you like an ambulance? You were held down with force." Terrence paused. His back throbbed. His wrists burned. His knees were bruised and scraped. But he shook his head. "No. I've had worse nights in the ER." The lieutenant nodded with deep respect. "Understood." Homes that usually shut their blinds in the evening were now wide open. People had stepped outside, some ashamed, some afraid, some curious. One neighbor, a middle-aged white man named Harold Eisworth, approached slowly with his hands raised. "Dr. O'Neill, my wife and I, we're very sorry for what happened. We didn't call the police, but we didn't do anything either." Terrence looked at him, tired but kind. "Not doing anything," he said softly, "sometimes hurts more than doing the wrong thing." Harold nodded, guilt sliding across his face like a shadow. Another neighbor, a woman in a floral dress, stepped forward holding a small container. "We, made some dinner earlier. We didn't know if you would eat, but..." She shoved the container toward him awkwardly. Terrence smiled gently but didn't take it. "Thank you," he said. "But we're okay." Behind them all, the officer who had assaulted him still sat in the cruiser. Handcuffed, shaking, face pale. And for the first time in his life, he understood what fear felt like on the other side. It took only 20 minutes before two cars rolled in fast. A reporter jumped out. Cameras. Bright lights. Microphones. Officer Gates muttered under his breath, "Oh no." Lieutenant Hollinger whispered into her radio, but it was too late. The story had already left the ground and was flying across the city. A reporter rushed up. "Dr. O'Neill. Dr. O'Neill, we heard a man was attacked in his own home by police. Is that true? Do you want to press charges?" Terrence did not run. He did not hide. He did not yell. He simply put an arm around his daughter, keeping her close. And he answered calmly, "I was misidentified. I was profiled. I was hurt. But right now, I'm focused on calming my daughter, not feeding headlines." His voice was soft, measured, quiet. And because of that, it hit harder than shouting ever could. A black SUV suddenly turned onto the street. Tinted windows. Federal plates. Everyone, the neighbors, the reporters, even the officers, stopped breathing for a moment. The SUV slowed in front of Terrence's house. Out stepped Dr. Carlson Archer, the U.S. Surgeon General. Yes, the Surgeon General. The man who appeared on national television every week. The man who led the whole country's medical guidance. He walked straight toward Terrence with long, quick strides. "Terrence," he called out. "My God, I came as soon as I heard. Are you all right?" Everyone's jaw dropped. The Surgeon General embraced Terrence gently, careful of the bruises. Reporters gasped. Neighbors stared. Officer McKesson shook even harder in the back of the cruiser. The Surgeon General pulled back, looking him over. "We had a meeting scheduled tomorrow morning with the White House task force," he said. "If anything had happened to you..." Terrence smiled weakly. "I'm all right, Carl. Just tired." Then the Surgeon General turned to the officers, his voice firm and cold. "This man is one of the most important pediatric surgeons in the United States. He has saved more children than I can count. He is an advisor to federal health programs. He is respected across this nation. And this..." He pointed to the broken equipment on the porch. The bruises, the cuffs, the kneeling. "Is how he is treated in front of his own home?" No one spoke. No one knew how to. He looked around at the watching crowd. "Let me say this clearly," he continued. "If a man of Dr. O'Neill's stature can be treated this way, What hope does an ordinary black teenager have walking down the street? Silence crashed over them like a wave. Lieutenant Hollinger nodded at her officers. Remove Officer McKesson from the cruiser. We're taking him into custody for assault. McKesson's eyes widened. What? No, wait, Lieutenant, please, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know. That's the point, she said coldly. And you didn't care. They walked him out. Neighbors watched in stunned silence. Phones raised. News cameras recording every moment. McKesson's face became the face of failure, shame, and exposed prejudice. And Terrence, standing straight now with his daughter beside him, became the face of quiet power. Not because he yelled. Not because he fought. But because the truth stood behind him like a giant. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low, more neighbors came by. Some with flowers, some with food, some with hugs, some with apologies they didn't know how to say. Terrence accepted them with the same calm dignity he always carried. Not once did he raise his voice. Not once did he say, "Look what you did." Not once did he ask for pity. Instead he asked only, "Please teach your children to see people, not fear." And somehow, that one sentence felt like a whole sermon. Inside the house, Terrence sat at the dining table with Alana. The lights were warm. The home felt safe again. She held his hands across the table. "Daddy, does this happen a lot? To people like us?" Terrence looked at her with soft, sad eyes. "Yes," he said gently. "More than it ever should." "Will it stop?" He squeezed her hand. "It will stop faster, if people like you grow up brave, kind, and aware." Alana wiped her eyes. "I'll try, Daddy." He smiled. "I know you will." Later that night, when the cameras were gone and the street was still, Terrence walked out onto his porch, hands in his pockets, breathing the cool air. A reporter who had stayed behind quietly asked, "Dr. O'Neill, after everything that happened today, what would you like people to remember?" Terrence looked out at the neighborhood that had doubted him, feared him, judged him, and now admired him. He answered with one simple truth. Respect shouldn't depend on knowing someone's title, but on knowing they're human. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments. Do you think Officer McKesson deserved jail time? Or should he be given a second chance?